welcome back. This is the Echols Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Terrence Echols, and today I have the privilege of talking to one of my very good friends, Mr. Sean McGee. Sean is an assistant coach at Manhattanville College. He is a recent Marist College graduate, and I'm happy to talk to him today. Sean, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be talking to you, of course. Your last podcast with Eddie was great, so I'm gonna have to match that, of course.
I mean, no one's beating Cash, so
I could try though. I could
hey,
try.
hey, Sean, you got heart, bro, but ain't nobody beating Cash. I'm telling you. All right, so let's get right into it.
I'm
You're
ready.
a graduate assistant coach at Manhattanville College. Obviously, you love the game of basketball. So, when did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Well, playing wise, obviously I wasn't the most talented player or the most athletic,
Oh,
and
we
wasn't the
know.
tallest. Yeah, we know. And you know especially. But obviously that love for the game happened at a very young age playing it, especially with my father. Obviously, he's probably the biggest reason why I fell in love with basketball, and he coached me as a player all the way up till probably 10th grade. And then at the end of 10th grade, I really went from wanting to really coach the game rather than play and look at the X's and O's and scouting reports, stuff like that. And I was interested so much in that aspect of the game rather than playing the game, because I knew that could impact the game as much as me playing, and me playing didn't impact the game as much as my mental capacity of the game. Right. So literally 10th grade, I tell this, anyone who asks, which if there's people who watch this or listen to this, know that in 10th grade, I was 5'5", whatever. I was small. Right. And I was on a AAU elite team, and all the time I'm playing guards that are 6 feet tall or 5'10", and every time I go in, they're just like, post them up, because I'm the small kid. I'm just like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, that's all. That's what happened. And so I turned to coaching because obviously I've seen my dad from age 5 till then it was 16, and I said I want to go try coaching. So I started helping out with Brewster, which I've helped out with a long time. And when I first started, it was more like manager stuff. Maybe I kept track of fouls and stuff, and maybe got water and stuff. And then after, as the season progressed, I did more things and help with practices, run shot clock, stuff like that. And then as we got into the second season, then as a young age, and even now, what I'm going to have to do at Manhattanville, you have to prove that you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about. So even at the varsity level at Brewster, which isn't the highest level of basketball, it's public school basketball, I had to prove that I can help the program in one way or another, right? And so once I showed the head coach, my dad was the assistant coach, that I actually could contribute and know what I'm talking about. Then as the seasons went on and I got older, then I started to do fouls, timeouts, and give suggestions during games. Like, hey, I think we should go zone. Hey, they're kind of beating us here. We should do this or that, right? And then it progressed into, Sean, we're playing this team in a week. Can you go scout them and go film them and write notes and make the scouting report yourself, and we'll go off your scouting report. And I still remember the first time that happened, and me as a young guy, like, getting that trust to do it, I felt very good. But at the same time, you have pressure, like, the team's going to rely on your scouting report. And the fact that they had trust in me to do that, like 17, 18 years old, was really, it was, I'm blessed and like fortunate for that, because I got that experience at such a young age. And me not being a player, it's so much harder to move up in the ranks of coaching in college, especially being a manager. And Eddie knows that as well. So getting that experience at a young age just built that passion. And then once I got to Marist, I was like, the next natural progression is to become a manager. And I did that while still helping out with Brewster as much as I could. And Brewster gave me that like taste of still coaching, but then, and being a manager at Marist made me see what it takes to coach at a Division I level and be around a Division I program. So I kind of got the best of both worlds, and now I'm going to be able to coach at a Division III level and see all the ins and outs that has to give me, and take all those experience and hopefully keep moving on in my coaching career. that was kind of a loaded answer, but I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it was very well said, Sean. I'm impressed. And it
I am a communications graduate, so
right, yeah, it's like you have a podcast yourself. If you
uh-huh.
haven't checked it out, I came on Sean's podcast not very long ago. So you kind of got into your experiences growing up playing for your dad, and we'll talk about your dad in a little bit. But talk to me about like what it was like in terms of what you had available to you in terms of playing growing up.
As me as a player.
Yeah,
So for me as a player, I started out with, rec leagues, right? Started with rec leagues. And then that turned into, summers. I was always doing summer camps with my dad's or my dad's friends who also were coaches at the high school level. They would do camps all the time. That's really, really where it first started. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then as I got into middle school and maybe even fifth grade, I think it was fifth grade, I started to get into AAU basketball. Nothing crazy. I'm not talking about like EYBL and the bigger circuits and stuff like that, of course. But I got into AAU basketball with Playmakers Academy, which Elijah Hughes. That's where he started. He's from Beacon. Coach Kenny Dawson, who's the director of Playmakers, great guy. He helped me a lot with player development, and then obviously he was another reason why I got into coaching as well. And so that's where from I'd say fifth grade to 10th grade, I was doing Playmakers AAU basketball, and I played some really competitive games, whether that was at tournaments in New Jersey. Like we played the City Rats one time. They're a very big AAU program
City
up in
Rocks.
City Rocks. I'm sorry, not
Yeah,
Rats. I
yeah.
don't know
No,
why
I'm
I said
familiar
Rats.
with them.
Yeah, City
Yeah.
Rocks. That was a competitive game. So like we played in some big tournaments, but then as I got older, we get like zero gravity tournaments. I won a zero gravity tournament with my team once. And as we got older, though, I definitely got better, but also there was tons of players that were way beyond my playing capabilities for sure, and definitely more athletic than me. And even though I was on this AAU elite team playing in really good tournaments, if I got in, I was getting in for 2 to 4 minutes a game. And I just thought, not that it's a waste of my time, and I loved all the players that I played with, but I said, I know my strength is on the mental side and helping my team in a different way. Well, I'm not that I wasn't having fun, but I know that I can help it more in a different way. And I said, why am I playing basically? I'm not going to necessarily go pro. I already knew that in 10th grade. I'm not going to go pro as a player, but there is a possibility that I could become a college coach or a professional coach somewhere because of my love and passion for the game and my knowledge of the game for such a young kid. And I think that's where the playing and the coaching kind of collided for me. And I said, even though I haven't played at a college level, I play a lot of basketball and I've been a manager. So I think me going to Manhattanville and being an assistant coach is the next step, where I still have to prove myself that I can coach at the college level.
Absolutely, and that's just going to continue to be what you have to do throughout anything you do in life is just continue to work and prove yourself in everything that you do. So who did you watch? Like, who are some of your favorite teams, favorite players, professional or college, that you watched growing up?
Yeah, one of my favorite coaches off the top of my head is Brad Stevens on the Celtics, because he gets his players to play extremely hard and he gets them to play together too. And at the pro level, obviously, that's not always the easiest task. And his story is absolutely fantastic too, in my opinion. He had a good job before coaching. He volunteered at Butler for 1 or 2 years. Then one of the assistants left. They said, "Hey, we'll give you the assistant coaching job." He left his full-time job that was outside of basketball to become an assistant coach. Then the head coach at Butler left, and he got there, and obviously he had 2 great Final Four runs, one with Gordon Hayward as well. And then the next step was becoming the head coach of the Celtics, and he was the youngest head coach in NBA history at the time. I don't know if he still is, but at the time he was. I don't know if there would be someone that's younger than him.
Right. Maybe
But
Ryan Saunders on the Timberwolves.
yeah, yes, you're right. I think that's the guy who recently beat him.
Okay.
But for me, seeing him at a young age, like when he first started coaching, I believe there was a couple players that were actually older than him on the Celtics. And like it made me believe that, like, my biggest thing when I was younger, I always thought either some kids my age or some other coaches that I coached against, that didn't necessarily give me respect or kind of, I don't want to say laughed at, but they're just like, what is this kid doing, more or less. And Brad Stevens was like my living example of, he's a young guy and he's made it. Like, why can't I be on that same path as well? Another more great coaches and programs is like Dean Smith in North Carolina, and how he conducted that program for many, many years, and watching that, or Jimmy V, obviously, who's passed away with North Carolina State, him as well, and how like his way, how he built a culture. Like,
Yep.
obviously the X's and O's are important, but like building a culture and a great atmosphere of a program is just as important. I think like he did obviously the best. Well, he's one of the best to do it. And so those are just a few coaches and programs that like I've looked from in that I've looked for inspiration and what I could do as a coach as well. And then obviously the biggest thing, that's great, and studying the game, the coaches is great, but the hands-on experience is like one of the biggest things for me. So getting at Brewster, which the head coach is Tom Nelligan. He's literally won a New York State championship with John F. Kennedy, which is a Catholic school. And he's been to the Final Four with them as well too. So he won one and got to the Final Four, and just learning from him at age 17 gave me so much. And then I learned from Coach Dunn and also Coach Maker and that previous staff. And you get these two completely different basketball philosophies, and you pick and take from all these different philosophies and how to build a program, what's the right way. And then in your own mind, you say, what if I got my own program one day and I was the head coach, what do I take from this, or what do I take from that to make a successful program? And I think that's the biggest thing, and the biggest teaching points and learning points for me as a young coach, is taking all of it in and kind of deciphering what do I want. But as of right now, as an assistant coach, obviously it's reinforcing my current head coach, Chris Alisi, who's an awesome guy, his basketball philosophy, and go out and get wins and make sure these kids are doing good in school.
Absolutely. Yeah. You honestly couldn't have said it best. I think coaching, or any art form, or basketball is an art form. It's just that easy. Anything that, takes a lot of skill and practice and patience, you're going to see people, you're going to have examples of others who do something right, do something wrong. And you just have to, you have to pick and choose what you want, bits and pieces of what different people do, what different people say. And it's just, you put together your own sort of masterpiece, which is, your team and your philosophy and what you guys do on the court. And I think that you couldn't have said it better by putting it that way. And so getting into, some of the other things you did while at Marist, you've obviously mentioned being a manager and working with the team a lot, but, you're also interested in other media. You're a writer, you're a podcaster. Talk to me a little bit about, some of your other avenues or interests.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. For me, basketball obviously is number one, right? But me, I love all sports, and that's why I was a sports comm major.
Yep.
I love soccer almost just as much as basketball.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
And my way of writing and doing podcasts and, these different things I've done, making highlights or some things like that, gives me
you were
those
working on an
different
app for a while too.
I was that's actually, that was not sports related. That was just me trying to do. I also love business. I had a business minor, and I actually ended up dropping it because I would have had to stay another semester just to take 4 business classes, and I didn't want to do that. It would have killed me. But I really do love business, and that alone gave me experiences that I have applied to coaching and just working in a professional setting. So, like when I had meetings with CEOs of different software companies or AI companies, whatever it was, right, technology companies, like those all prepared me, because I'm 18, 19, having these real professional calls, and you learn how to email and what's the proper way to talk in the professional fields. Even though it's a different profession, it still can be applied to this. And like, so you learn how to write an email. So specifically, if I wrote what I learned there, I could have learned what's the right way to contact a coach. Say, hey coach, when I was job searching, for example, say, hey coach, this is who I am, blah, 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 and things like that. And you learn how to communicate with other professionals. I know it's a little off topic, but so like you take different things, like just what I was saying before, you take from different experiences and you mix them together to learn and grow, to make yourself as a better individual.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely get that. And what about the manager process? Let's talk about Marist a little bit. You
Yes,
just
sir.
spent 3 years there. Yep. You're repping it right now, and you just finished off your last year there. You're early graduate. We'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about that a little bit later. But talk to me about your experience as a manager for the Marist men's basketball team.
Well, first things first is I would have not even be talking to you in this podcast about my Manhattanville job if I wasn't a manager at
Yeah.
Marist. And that's the truth. That's a fact. So everything I've done up to this point has led me to where I am today. And somehow, like it all works out in the end. It's weird, but it's weird how everything kind of works out. It's just life, right?
Yeah.
But talking about being a manager at Marist, it was like the best thing for me. Like I talked about how Brewster gave me that passion. Like being a manager at Marist only amplified that. Um, when we had the first year and we had that staff and that staff got let go, like you saw the business in college basketball right there. And Coach Maker got let go. And I think there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I cried. I mean, I cried when he got let go and everyone got let go. And like the one thing I really appreciate in our program, especially, and you've seen it firsthand too, now being a walk-on, is like the family atmosphere with the guys is like
Oh yeah.
outstanding. And I never, like it's easy to be like if you were a player and just look at us as managers, right? But like I didn't necessarily feel as I was a manager, and that goes with like the players and the coaches. So I felt so a part of it that that's one of the reasons why I think I was a good candidate for Coach Alisi at Manhattanville. The fact that after games, Coach Dunn felt comfortable talking to me about for 15, 20 minutes why we did this or why we did that, what do we have to do better, and things like that. And to a manager, like he didn't have to spend time to talk to me after a loss or some things like that. Like I'm just honestly, I'm just a manager, but like he took his time out to do that. Or,
Yep.
Dorian, obviously, the Dobo at
Yep.
Marist. Like there was times he spent an hour just talking to me about different stories and telling me showing me different plays. Like, or Coach Kevin Driscoll, he'd show me Princeton, pulled me out, showed me 30 minutes of Princeton offense and the different actions in it. And at the
Yep.
time, I'm like, how do I remember all this? But the fact like he took the time out of his day to like show me that stuff is a big reason as to why I am where I am. So you talk about like my experience being a Marist manager, and like I have nothing but like good emotions that like when you like if anyone ever asked me what was it like to be a manager at Marist, like I'm gonna tell you it was like the best time of my life. I mean, I got to travel, I got to go to Ireland, I got to be with a Division I program and be with Division I players for 3 years of my life, and hopefully I will someday get back to Division I as a coach and say I can do that and be in a program again. But the fact of how much I learned something new every day, whether it was with filming and synergy to X's and O's, how to run a
Yep.
practice, how to deal with certain players, different drills. I mean, for me as a coach, it was like a dream or a blessing to be able to go every day, have a practice, and see how the coaches conduct themselves. Because one day I would like to be in their shoes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, Shawnee, you couldn't have said it better. It was a pleasure working with you, being with you
Oh, you know that.
for this past 3 years. Honestly,
Honestly, I
it's
wish it was 4, but I ain't gonna pay
right.
$50,000 just to be a manager again.
Yeah, I mean, if you got the credits, you might as well graduate, and I respect that completely. And while you were there, you had a lot of responsibilities, but I think probably your biggest responsibility was handling the film. And people
Hmm.
don't understand how important film is, and
Oh, it's
getting
important.
practice and games and scouting, and how important that is for every aspect of the game, like recruiting, like how important film is to a coach, and you had a very hands-on experience with that. So tell me a little bit about what that did for you in
Yeah,
terms
this
of.
might be a little long answer, so keep me on track here. But like you said, like when I first the first year, I kind of just filmed, and Scott Day, who was the dope at the time, kind of just dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
One of the big I told you about how it was a blessing to be manager. One of the biggest blessings I had was Dorian Long gave me a lot of freedom to figure it out and say, you're handling film, you need to learn, synergy, sports code, converting it into an MP4, and say, I'm letting it be your show. Like, I trust you. And this is really like, if I were to mess it up, it's really on him. So for him to give me that trust was really, really important to me. So like we're talking about at first, it's a little daunting because you're trying to learn these different things, and it's you got to do it fast, especially on a game day. After that final horn blows and the clock goes to zero, like it's go time to you got most teams, some teams have sports code, some teams don't. For people who are listening who don't know what sports code is, it's just basically like a video software
Software,
where
yeah.
you can cut up clips and the game goes straightly recorded into a sports code file. Now, an MP4 file is like a regular just movie file, which is
Right.
what most people like because it works on any laptop or computer.
You could put it into
So
any software.
exactly. So basically, some teams don't have a sports code, don't have the sports code program. So I'd have to right after that horn blows, I have to make that sports code file into an MP4, then put it on a hard drive after I convert it to an MP4, then run and find this sometimes is the hardest part because the Dobos or other managers have so much things to do on an away game as well, is to find the person to then get their laptop and put it on, or get their hard drive and put it on their hard drive. And then after that, even at home games, your job's not done, as in after I give them the film and I make sure they have it. And also you have to make sure that it works on their laptop, because if I give them either a film that doesn't work or the wrong one and they're on the bus home, it's bad. Trust me,
Yeah.
it is bad. So then after that, I have to go upstairs, put the game on the server, because there's a server, and once you get into the flow of this, and which I've been for 2 years, I do it fast. But at first,
Yeah.
like I said, it was daunting. Like I have to remember all these things, and I can't mess up because if Coach Dunn goes home without the film, Dorian's gonna get the call at 2 a.m. saying, "Hey, where's the film?" And he's
Yep.
gonna have to drive back, and it's on me, and then I feel bad, right?
Yep.
That happened one time.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
so so basically, even though I put it on the server, so the server, I have to make sure all the coaches pull it off the server as well.
Right.
So that's what happened. I put it on the server, but Coach Dunn didn't drag it off the server onto his laptop. And so that's when Dorian had to go back and take his laptop and get it for him and things like that. So, but then after the server, then I have to put it on Synergy. So I have to take that MP4 file I made,
My
and then
goodness, Sean.
yes, and then
This
I
is
have to pick the right game on Synergy, do game upload, and basically upload it and wait till it uploads. So basically every team in the MAC is required to put the home team is required to put the game film on. So every team has the game film so they can scout and do like that. That's just the rules. So we have to do that after every game. And if you don't, and if it also has to have sound and everything, so or you technically get fined, things like
okay.
that. So like it's really important that like you follow all the rules, and that's an MP4 file. So it goes back to the trusting of Dorian, that Dorian just like you said, oh my God, there's a lot of things to do there. But like for him to trust me, like I gained a lot of experience, which helped me get the Manhattanville job from Dorian giving me or allowing me to do all those things and those freedoms to learn. those things and just trust me that I'm going to get it right. Now, were there some
Absolutely.
hiccups along the way? Of course, that happens. And you problem solve. Like, one of the worst things is when either the server's down for home games and then I have to go to each individual coach and give them a hard drive. And sometimes the coaches are out doing different things after games, and that's totally normal. But then I'm the last guy there, like between the players and the other managers. A lot of times I was the last guy there, and that's okay. But like, you just learn on the go, and film is just so vitally important in all divisions, junior college as well, and especially NBA. And they all use it, like you said, to scout, show players what they can improve on, and they cut it up themselves. So like, if they don't have that film, like, they could fall behind, which could be obviously bad, like when you're in the midst of a season, right?
Right.
And one last thing before you move on to the next question is the time when we were playing Siena, and Coach Serge, it was Serge's scout, and Serge let me use synergy and do a personnel edit. Like, even that, like, the fact that he trusted me to do that. Now, I did not do the best job in that. It was my first time, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was looking for in personnel. I thought I got tendencies and stuff like that, but he said I got more like actions and plays they ran for specific players. But he said, like, a lot of the clips he still used, but he just used them in different ways to show different
Right.
actions and things like that. But the fact that he thought that I was ready and trusted me to, hey, can you do the personnel for Siena at a Division I level too? Even that experience doing that and then talking to him afterwards of this is what you kind of did, but this is what you should look for. Like, that experience right there, I already have. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I got experience on how to make a personnel edit and different types of edit, like under out of bounds and what they run here and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, I mean, you just gave us a huge
It was. I thought
lesson
you gotta cut
on
me off.
pretty much everything you had to do. I mean, it's good that you are able to, articulate this and talk about this, because that was your experience. And if anyone's listening, who is thinking about becoming a manager or thinking about handling film and what it takes to manage that piece of the game that is so integral. It may be like a small part of it, but it's so important to how a program is run, what happens in terms of practice, and what happens in the weight room, what happens in the film room. Like, you could relate that to, film and scouting. You could relate that to pretty much any aspect of the game. And I felt like that was so important for you. And like, just watching from afar over these past few years, watching you do that and handle that and be at every single game, working every single game, and be up in that
Up
tiny
top,
little box,
always up
top
top
in
with the
the
orange
McKinney
vest.
Arena. Yeah,
Put the
watching
orange
you.
vest on.
Exactly, the orange vest, so you don't fall off
Yeah,
of the thing, even though you weren't really gonna. It's pretty hard to fall off that thing.
it is. You'd have to try.
Yeah, you'd really have to try. And yeah, just watching you do that, I was like, Sean's doing something that, I could never do, that I don't understand one bit. Like, I've never touched a film camera in my
We
life.
always said Terrence was the last one to touch the camera.
Yeah.
If we needed a fill in for me, Terrence is on the end of the list.
Yeah, honestly, I had never even like looked at a camera. I've never looked at a camera in my years of working there. And just seeing you go through all that, and knowing the responsibility that was on your back, that's admirable. And I appreciate you for that. You definitely helped out,
Thanks,
everyone in
Steve.
the program by doing that and working hard and showing up and being diligent. But one thing about you, Sean, you are brutally honest
Hey, you have
about
to be.
everything.
You
And
have to be.
hey, I'm not gonna argue with you on that in terms of the importance of honesty, but sometimes you say things that could be hurtful for the person you're saying it to, or be hurtful for you more importantly,
Well, yeah,
because
when
you
people like
say,
you take it, when people like you take it the wrong way, then you try to hit me. That's happened multiple times.
hey, Sean, I'm not going to
You're not gonna
deny.
incriminate yourself on your
Yeah,
own podcast.
I am not going to deny or confirm. I have tried to hit you after you said something that may have been brutally honest to me, you know?
I,
But, where do you get that from? Why are you so honest, and why are you just not afraid to like speak your mind in a lot of situations?
my PR director for myself told me to watch out for this question.
Who's that?
I'm just making a joke,
Oh.
but but honestly, like I've always kind of been that way from a young age, and I think obviously a little bit has to do. My dad. My dad,
Yeah.
he can make a joke and be like that as well. But like for me, and as a coach too, like I would, it's a little different between Division I players and high school players that maybe might play D3. Most of them don't at Brewster, but one of like this is my viewpoint on it is, especially for Division I players, like you're playing high level basketball. Now, do I joke around and be honest about you threw the ball 5 times away? Like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? Do I do that sometimes? Yeah. But like when like players like I had some players that asked me serious questions, and I think the only way for them to improve is to be brutally honest with them. Like if your ball handling is not good, and you're dropping the ball on every catch, like there's something you can't play. Like you need to improve that. Like that's just the honest truth. And it's better to say that to a player and have them work on it. Now, does that mean that players that there's plenty of players that I was brutally honest with at Marist? Does that mean
Yep.
if I was brutally honest about one thing, let's just say ball handling, for example, that they weren't great shooters? Like you're obviously playing at Division I level for a reason. Like you are exceptionally talented at something, for whether it's rebounding, setting screens, defensive end. Like you are extremely talented in that area, but there's always areas to improve your game. There's always is. And I think my personality about how how I'm really honest, and there's been players that they're like, dang, Sean, you're really gonna say that? Like, but I am gonna say it because like the first step in improving your game is acknowledging your weaknesses. So if I can get you to acknowledge your weakness and then get in the gym and work on that weakness, which then in turn helps you in the game, and then that helps the team win, then ultimately, as a manager, definitely, I feel like I've done my part in trying to help at least. Obviously, I'm not a coach. I can't impact it the exact ways that the coaches can, but I can try to do my best. I can do what I can to try to impact the program in a positive way. And I think my brutal honesty is what you call it.
Yeah.
I think that was my way of trying to get the players to improve and acknowledge that there's things that you can work on. And for the most part, most of the players that I talked to at Marist, I think a lot of them really respected me, unless behind closed doors they were talking smack about me, right? But,
Yeah.
I've had there was times where I had 20-minute, 30-minute conversation with specific players about, what happened in the game and what do you think, they're asking me, what do you think I can work on? How does my form look in my shot and things like that? And, there's been plenty of times where guys have been in the gym and I'm rebounding for them and they ask me questions of what does this look good and things like that. And for me, if those little bit, even me getting into the gym and helping them rebound and getting shots up at nighttime after practice, like if that's helped us win, obviously Marist hasn't necessarily had the best records in the past, 5-10 years, but that doesn't mean the coaching staff and the players in that program are not trying extremely hard. And if I could be a part of, if I could have been a part of making the program a winning program, then that was my way to do it and impact the program in that way. So I think that's kind of where the brutal honesty comes from. But the same thing is I'm not, so I guess the word is vulgar with the high school kids, but I'm same thing with the high school kids. Like if there's kids that I've coached that, are selfish and don't pass the ball at the high school level, and they get subbed down, and I just say straight up, like, if you don't pass the ball, you're not playing. Like, you need to use your teammates and find better shots and have better shot selection. I'm not going to baby you, even if you're our best player. And that's happened. And that's happened as well. So, like, it's that brutal honesty, which I think I don't just say things to say things. I know that's a little hard to believe coming from myself and you, and
Yeah.
there's probably people that think that, but everything I say, especially to a player, I feel like it has a meaning and it has a message to make that player better, if that makes sense with my brutal honesty.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I bring that up because when you think about who you are, and I think, oh, Sean McGee in my head, I think, oh, that's the kid that's gonna tell it like it is. He doesn't really sugarcoat things. He doesn't care if he hurts your feelings. He doesn't
That
really
is
care
true. I do
if
care a
that.
little bit because I have feelings myself. So I
Hey,
do care. And
right.
that's the thing, not to cut you off, but like that's the
No,
thing.
no,
Like
go ahead.
I'm brutally honest with players, right? I am. Like you said, I'm brutally honest with them. But at the same time, I am because I care about them. Like I talked about, like, literally 15 minutes ago, I talked about the family atmosphere that Marist, the program,
Right.
had. And I loved every single one of those players because I honestly felt like we were a family.
Hmm.
And we all picked each other when we were down, and we all had fun when we were up.
Yep.
And the reason why I bring that up is because it's easy for me to be brutally honest with these guys because I know at the end of the day, they care about me and they know I care about them. So if I'm
Right.
being brutally honest with them, they know it's just coming from a place of me trying to make them better.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you speak to that being a family. My rebuttal to when you would say something that I didn't think you should have said, I would always be like, you know what, Sean, one of these days the stuff you're gonna say is gonna get you hurt. And to see you graduated from Marist unscathed, it really shows how much the guys loved and respected your opinion, because there were times where I was like, Sean, you should not have said that. And you said it, and it was in your heart, it was on your mind, and you thought it would help the person that you said it to. And in the end, we all know who you are, we all respected you, we all loved you. And I mean, it is what it is. I wouldn't approach it in the same way you did, but that's why you and I are different people, and
Yeah.
I respected what you did, even though I would often warn you. I'd be like, Sean, would not say that. Would not go there
We
with
know
that
that
one. But
happened a decent amount of times. I know. But
right.
I think I think in the end, people know that's my personality.
Yeah.
So, like, it's nothing personal ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not personal at all. Um, and at the end of the day, like I've already said, like, it's all love, like what you said. And in that group of guys, especially last year, we
It was
didn't have
love.
we didn't have the best record, but like that was I'll say it right now, that was a special group. That was a
Absolutely.
special. We didn't have the best year, but the amount of, or I should say, how
Camaraderie
hard they
everyone had.
worked,
Yeah.
how hard they worked for not having a good record should be recognized and noticed.
Absolutely. And the camaraderie just is on another level. I've never been on a team where everyone got along so well. Everyone
With a
hangs
losing
out with
record.
each other. Yeah, true.
Because you,
That
you
too.
think you think kids would turn on each other,
Hmm.
but they knew that at any given night, especially in the MAC, when we got the conference play, it didn't matter what the record was. Like, they could beat anybody.
Yep.
I think they believed that. And it showed with the amount of 1 to 2 possession games we lost. And
Yeah.
hopefully this year, you guys get over that hump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm hoping for that too. I definitely think we can do it for sure. And you mentioned him a few times, and of course I have to ask, your dad is the the man. He would always be at practices, he would always come to games, and he would always talk to you, around whenever you would be around Marist. And it was cool that since you had grown up so close to the school to see him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the effect of your dad on you, not only like your career in basketball and coaching and writing and all that, but just in terms of in life.
Oh, I mean, we can spend a long time on this topic, but like what you said, like my dad being at practices, and he was basically at like every home game, unless he had a game at Brewster. Like, that was one of the only reasons why he wouldn't be at a Marist home game. And I really owe everything to him. From a young age, he pushed me. I mean, the whole reason I love basketball so much is really because of him, right? Um, there's so many thoughts going through my head right now about him, what to say. There's so many positive things. I I think me being at Marist and being manager, I kind of like I feel like he's always wanted to do something like that as well. So he's kind of lived his kind of dream of being with a Division I program through me a
Yeah.
little bit. But
Yeah.
having him there with me, and coming to the games and talking to me afterwards, or coming to a practice and being there, and like him being close, like it's amazing to me. Like the support level, because I go back to being younger. Like I think I always knew I wanted to go to Marist from especially once my brother went and I saw how beautiful the campus was, and I did a pre-college thing there.
Yep.
And I said, this place is awesome. I love it, and I'm gonna go there. But tell you this is the complete honest truth. I was gonna go there probably for business at first. But my dad knew he knew that I loved sports more. Um, and though I went to the pre-college thing as a sports comm student, and he knew that's what I really loved more. But I was thinking, maybe the safer thing is to do business. And
Yep.
there's a lot of dads or parents that would probably tell their kid to take the safer route, and get that business degree. But like my dad was kind of like the opposite, like the reverse way. Like he saw something that I loved, and he said, you do what you love. You're not going to do something that's the business route and safe. Like do what you love and stick with it. And then, that was me getting the sports comm. And then, as well as, I mean, if he's not assistant, like, I mean, if he's not an assistant coach at Brewster, where he's just not a coach, I guess, like I'm saying, like, I don't know if I'm on a high school team coaching at such a young age without him as well. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I get that chance. So that's part where me and I have friends all the time that joke about, like my relationship with my dad and how strong it is.
Right.
Uh, that like it's partly so strong because he's big reason why I'm getting to live out my dream. Like I really say that, even though I'm coaching D3 as a graduate assistant, like my dream from a young age has been to coach at the college level, and like I would be nowhere close to that without him.
Right.
And like it goes to show like how important uh you know role models and guardians can be on a person's life. And I'm forever grateful for my dad and getting me involved with basketball, and then letting me, knowing that that's my passion, and letting me continue it as I go on. Not that saying like he never was like, the manager's taking too much time from school, or you're not, you need to be focusing on this or that. Like whatever I wanted to focus on, because of my, like whatever
He
my
would
passion
support
was.
you.
Like if my passion was tennis, he would support me in tennis too. Like he wouldn't care. And like that's one of the biggest blessings I've had as a kid, because I literally have friends that have parents that said, we want you to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer. And that's not necessarily their passion. I
Right.
get to be I'm this is a little off topic, but we've talked with you before that I've worked the hoop group camps.
Yeah.
Like me working the hoop group camps, like that was like my moment where I'm coaching some college level kids there at the hoop group camp during real high school 8-minute quarter games, 8-minute
Yep.
quarter games. And I'm coaching right now, and I have, I'm making the decisions right now. And I remember my car ride back home, I'm just driving, and I'm like, wow, like I just, as a 21-year-old, these kids are 16, 17, 18, listening to me,
Yep.
calling me coach.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, like this is what I've been dreaming for my whole life. And I mention that because there is no that without my dad pushing me in the right direction of what my passion is. Like he saw it and he pushed me in that direction. So that's like how important he is. And then to have him there every step of the way at Marist, and have him close, which not all players or managers have that luxury.
Yep.
Like to
Yeah.
have him there and like be able to sit down with him and talk to him after a game, or if he comes to a practice and just talk to him. And then the other great thing, this is a little off topic, but like all the coaching staff at Marist were just so welcoming to him as well. Which like
Yes.
he would even this is a great story too, is that like Coach Dunn after practices would go and talk to him for 10, 15 minutes, and Coach Dunn would ask my dad like, hey, what do you think we should doing? Should we do this? And my dad all the time, he's like, I'm an assistant coach at a public high school. What are you asking me for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I think my dad, I go back to like he's living out his kind of dream in college coaching through me. Like he loves that stuff, and like the fact that he pushed me in my passion and he gets to be able to be a part of it is like one of the most fulfilling things I think of my life so far as a 21-year-old.
Absolutely. No, that's great. And it's been so nice to see your relationship with your dad and like have you guys have something that you're both so passionate about and share that. Like I never had that with my dad. Like he's interested in things that I'm not interested in at all, and I'm interested in things that he's not interested at all. But it's just like just to have that, like I can't imagine. It's got to be the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is. And like there's nothing wrong with having a dad that has a different interest in you as well, right? Like obviously you can have parents have different interests, and this as long as like you're happy and they're happy, like, and you both love each other. I mean, that's all you can really ask for. Like the biggest thing for me is that regardless of what I did, like I could have, like, we share a passion, right? And that's fantastic. But regardless, if I wanted to be a professional basket weaver, my dad would support me. Like I'm just saying, like, and that's something that I don't take for granted, that I have that style of parenting, because I know there's parents that are not necessarily like that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely something to be grateful for, to have parents, who support you, unconditionally. That's the whole point of it, in terms of being a family member and having family, is you love someone unconditionally. You love and support them unconditionally. And that's a great thing. I'm so glad that you have had him for that. But, moving forward, so you're an early graduate. Talk to me about, what it was like going to school, anticipating you're going to be there for 4 years. It's going to be 4 long, strenuous years, and you're out in 3. What was that? What was that like? You're 21 years old. You already have a college degree. You already have your bachelor's degree. What is that like?
This one is kind of a little tough, just because, like, I'm still processing it. To be honest with you, like, even though I got the Manhattanville job, and like I remember getting that text saying that from the head coach saying I got it, and like my emotions, like my whole body, like I felt like lifted, like there was like weight lifted from me when I got that text. But like I wasn't really I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really prepared. Like I'm thinking I'm gonna be here for 4 years and I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do. And then all of a sudden I look at the credits and I'm like, I already knew I kind of went in with like college credits from my high school, but I look at the amount of credits and I'm like, hey, I think I'm graduating. And I'm like, and like I took a lot of classes that counted towards 2 requirements. I even took one class that counted towards 3.
Oh, so you had some double dips.
Yeah, so I had some double and 1 triple dip for sure.
Oh man, a triple dip.
And
I don't know about that.
So basically, I look at the degrees and the credits, and I'm like, I'm gonna graduate in 3 years, and part of me was really bummed, and part of me kind of still is a little bummed, just because I made some of the best friendships of my life with the people I met at Marist that I had no idea who they were beforehand, and they're having their senior year together and they're living together, and I know they're gonna have a ball. Like I know they're gonna be going to classes and hanging out and doing all those things, and like I might be missing out. I mean, I am going to be missing out on some of it. But like the trade-off at the same time from getting my bachelor's early, 1 year early, as well as being 21, like I'm going to be a college level coach coaching college basketball at age 21 with there are going to be some players that are the same age as me.
Yep, or older.
that is the trade-off. Like,
Right.
I'm going to miss out. I'm going to miss out on some stuff with some of my best friends in my life, in my entire life. But at the same time, I'm getting to do something that most kids in my age might not necessarily get the opportunity to do. So it's like that's where like the pros and cons come in. And I
Yep.
think like the pros of being able to coach at 21 at a college level program obviously outweigh me missing out with my friends and different things. And it's not to say that I'm never going to go up and see them because Manhattanville and
Right.
Marist aren't far away.
Yeah.
But like, just think about this. Like, if I don't graduate now, the Manhattanville GA spots every 2 years. So
Yep.
I don't get to apply to GA spot next year because there'd still be one more GA. The guy they hire this year, if it wasn't me, would have 2 years. So I
Yep.
wouldn't be going to Manhattanville for sure because I need to find something for that year to at least fill. And it, it's funny how that works out because I was talking about before, like how life just the path just somehow works out like it does. It's just weird how it does. It's weird how it works. Um, I, I don't know. It's the graduating in 3 years. It's a blessing and a curse
Yeah.
because of that reason. But I think it's more of a blessing because, like what I said, the pros outweigh the cons.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sean, we're gonna live it up for you. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna
That's all
always
I can
remember.
ask for.
Right. Yeah. Always remember the good times with Shawnee boy. Um, but yeah, no, I'm super proud of you, man, and I'm so glad that you're able to do that. And that's a huge accomplishment in itself. To be 21 years old, already coaching college basketball, where some of the players on your team are going to be older than you, which is
It
crazy
might
at the
be, or
college
at
level.
least as old.
Right. Yeah, the same age, if not older. But that's amazing. That's going to be a great experience for you. I'm super excited for you. And to finish off the podcast, I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to talk about that experience. What are your expectations? Uh how are you feeling going into this, brand new experience? And what was the process like uh interviewing and going through that whole, and then just talk to me about how you feel going into this. What's your
Yeah,
mind like?
it's a great question. I'll break it up into three different parts, I think.
Okay.
Um, First of all, I'll go through the interview process at first. So I saw it, right, and there was like 90, I think it was 95 or 98 applicants for just this one GA spot. Yeah,
Jeez.
no, there was a lot of people, and I think COVID had part to do with it because the jobs were down, and people were saying, well, why don't I go get a GA spot for 2 years, and then the economy will pick back up and I can get a job in something else, right? So there were like 98 applicants, and because of my coaching past in high school and especially at Marist, I got pushed to the last 10 all automatically, which was great, right? um, and then I texted the coaches at Marist, who without them I wouldn't have got this job as well. Coach Kevin Driscoll is actually pretty good friends with Chris Alisi, and he called him and told him the things that I'd done at Marist, and like he didn't. It was not there was not a lie there. He told me, you know, excuse me, for example, he told Coach Alisi straight up saying he's really good, he works really hard, but he doesn't necessarily have the on-court experience, especially at the college level and working out players, which is true. It just is true. So I had to sell myself. I had over an hour FaceTime call with Coach Alisi, and he asked me different questions of how I can help the program, where do I want to be in 5-10 years, and how I can help in film and getting players to classes and helping with academics, like the whole thing. Because as an assistant coach at the D3 level, you're not just coaching basketball. You're doing like all the administrative duties, the travel itineraries. You're getting kids schedules for classes and working it around practice. So you're doing all that stuff and making sure the kids have financial aid and all that stuff. So me being a manager at Marist and Dorian Long, the Dobo, allowing me to learn all these things
Yep.
helped me because a lot of the questions he asked, I had answers for and experience for. And then I kind of used my coaching at the high school level to say, well, coach, Kevin was right. Like, I don't have coaching experience at Marist technically, but I do have experience working out high school level players and helping run practices and being and coaching in real games as an assistant coach at the high school level, which obviously is not a lie.
Right.
So, I talked to him. He really liked me. He pushed me to, after that interview, he pushed me to the last four automatically. He even texted me afterwards saying, oh no, he said it in the call. I remember at the last, he said at the end, he's like, you'll definitely be in my last four. Just I'll stay in touch. You'll talk to one of the assistant coaches for the next interview. So I talked to one of the assistant coaches. He was actually the GA that's leaving. So I
Okay.
talked to him. It went really well. It was like a 30, 45-minute call. And excuse me, I'm backtracking a little bit, but Kevin helped me out because he told me things I should make in advance. So I made like a coaching portfolio of all the things I did with film, things I did with Brewster basketball, scouting reports I've done, and a travel itinerary that I helped Dorian Long with. So I did all that. I sent that to him. I made a recruiting presentation on PowerPoint. I also made a mock schedule for a player on their team. And there was something else too. Oh, and I showed the stat sheets of how I recorded stats on for practices as well. So I was proactive, and part of the reason why I was proactive was because Coach Kevin Driscoll helped me out in being proactive. So that also pushed me along too because of how prepared I looked and how prepared I was. And so then I talked to the other assistant coach. I thought it went fairly well. We had connections of different coaches we knew and stuff like that. And then this was lucky. I went into a virtual open house for the graduate school, and the other assistant coach is the graduate admissions director. So he was in the open house Zoom call because of COVID. It was a Zoom call.
Right.
And so I just messaged him privately saying, "Hey, coach, this is who I am. I'm the guy applying for the GA spot. Would love to talk to you." And he's like, "Oh, awesome. Thanks for reaching out. How about we talk tomorrow on the phone?" So I talked to him for 15, 20 minutes, and I got pushed to the last three after being the last four. And then after that, I was told to make a scouting report on Manhattanville themselves and Sarah Lawrence, who's in their conference, as well as make a practice schedule and a mock itinerary for one of the teams in their league. So I had to do those four things. And I did all that and sent it in. And then I waited basically for a phone call. And I felt really confident. I thought I presented myself really, really well for my age. And I did absolutely as much as I possibly could. And honestly, the phone call wasn't the phone call that I wanted. It wasn't. I got a phone call from Coach Alisi saying, "Hey, this really makes me upset to say this. Like my stomach hurts right now saying this to you, but we're going to go with an older guy who's coached at the D3 level, who also coached in the same conference at Mount St. Mary's." So I said, "Okay, coach, I understand. I mean, he coached in the same conference, so he knows all the teams in it, and he's older and has D3 experience. And I think he actually even worked hoop group camps as well." So I was like, "Thank you for giving me the opportunity, coach. I appreciate it, and hopefully we can stay in touch." That was that. And from there on out, I kept a list. I started to apply to a bunch of different colleges or even prep schools to be assistant coaches. And I kept the list. I think it made it up to everyone that said no to me. I crossed it off. And I think I went up to like 26 or 27 schools that said no to me.
Wow.
And I didn't want to give up on my dream of coaching because I knew I would have regretted it. I knew for a fact I would have regretted it. And as I'm going about looking for, coaching jobs and trying to make connections with college level coaches, doing a lot of phone calls, things like that, a month and a half later, like a whole month and a half later, I get a text that just says Sean McGee. And I was like, from the coach from Manhattanville. And he says, and I was like, "Hey, coach, what's up? Like, what, why, what's going on?" And he's just like, "I'm just going to cut right to the chase. The other guy ended up he basically got out of coaching. He didn't want to take it. And he said on the phone call too, that you were my runner up. And, and I didn't know if he was actually serious about that or said it
just to make you feel
make me feel good.
Yeah.
But then he said, "You were my clear runner up. I felt basically it made me uneasy not taking you too. Like he was thinking about it, and he said, I'm not messing around with interviewing other people. Do you still want the position? And I was just like, I remember
Yeah.
I was down in my basement where I am now. I ran upstairs to my dad and my mom and said, I just got offered the Manhattanville job, and we were like jumping up and down.
That's
Uh,
tough.
and uh, and so obviously I texted back like, heck yeah, I'm still interested. Coach, he's like, great, we'll talk tomorrow. And then obviously the rest is history. I still haven't actually set foot on campus because of COVID, but I've been in calls with all the coaches in constant contact. And the whole reason why I'm working hoop group is because of him as well. So he's been fantastic for me, and I've been watching tons of film on the team and trying to get familiar with the players and the different actions we run. But then kind of transitioning now, and that was the process, right? So
Right.
basically, the process ended with me getting a no, but because of how I presented myself and represented myself, uh, he felt that I was the clear guy to go to after the other guy ended up not going. And I think that shows how, like, even if you don't get a job, like in that moment, the coaches still know, like, if you need to constantly show yourself as being like professional and stuff like that. So like, let's just say if I was like, oh, you didn't pick me, come on, like, how is that possible? Like, do you, like,
Right.
if I said that on the phone call, like, do I get a text back after a month and a half? Like, I don't think so.
Right.
um but going into what I'm looking forward to is the fact, like, I know I'm young and I know I'm going to make mistakes, and and the other assistant coach there was a former D2 head coach for 8 years at Concordia College,
Oh wow.
Brian Sunday. So I basically have two head coaches there that, I know I'm confident in my ability to coach. I know I'm there for a reason, but there's still so much I can learn. So I'm really looking to absorb so much knowledge from those two coaches, whether it's X's and O's, how to build a program and things, and different drills, how to communicate to players. Like, there's so many, and I saw a lot of that at Marist, and I've learned a lot there. But like, you never stop learning, especially with different coaches and how they coach. So like, that's one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to, and doing that. And then another thing is the fact that I'm actually getting to live out my dream, which I've said before in this podcast. Like, I'm gonna have college level players that, I'm gonna get a group of college level players, and he's gonna go, Sean, go work them out.
Yep.
And like, you have the responsibility to work them out, and if
Yep.
it's on you to get those players better, and at the same time as I'm getting them better on the court, like, it's also my responsibility to get them high grades in the classroom and with academics. And I think with my connections in the sport, there's like 4 or 5 players that are sports studies majors on the team. And I think, like, with my connections I've made with, whether it's Kingston Stockade, a semi-pro soccer team, or New York City FC, like things like that, that I
Yep.
can find these guys different internship opportunities somewhere where I can reach out, and get them something, and hopefully help them along their academic career, because obviously at the Division III level, a lot of these guys aren't going to turn pro. So academics are vitally important. So if I can help them out on the basketball court as well as off, I think that's something I'm going to look forward to as well. And then kind of lastly is just like, just going there and experience it all. Like,
Right.
just like the fact that I have this opportunity, that I'm not taking it for granted, going there and seeing the different things in college basketball that I haven't seen at Marist, or I haven't seen at coaching in high school, and just learning and hopefully building connections and relationships with players and coaches that help me further down the road in my career.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, dude. Like I said, I'm so excited for you to finally have this opportunity, and it's going to be a great experience for you, to get like some hands-on coaching experience and to really work with guys. And like you said, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but that's going to build your character. That's going to just help you grow as a person and as a coach. And in so many ways, it's just all a part of your process. And I think the fact that, he passed on you the first time and came back the second time, that's just going to be another added, experience that you've had to go through and some adversity that you've had to face. And then when you're faced with similar adversity in the future, it's not going to seem as bad, because pain and suffering and stuff like that is always relative to, the person who's experiencing it. And if you are able to get through something like that and understand, persevere and write down 26 different, however many places you were going to apply to or go to or try to work for, and still keep trying and trying and trying, like that's just going to help you grow and continue to, become the best coach you can be. And there's not a doubt in my mind that you're going to end up being the best coach you could possibly be. You got this work, you got the passion, you got the love, you got the work ethic. All you need to do is just get the experience, and you're there, and I'm so excited for you. I'm so glad you came on the podcast today, Shawnee. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you for having me. This has been really fun. Really, really fun. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. Maybe me and Eddie can collab together, or Cash. Me and Cash can collab.
Hey man, I would love that. It would be just like old days,
True that, man. True that.
Yeah. And I'm so glad, like, Sean, I'm so glad that you gave me a great podcast, because I don't know for how many months you were saying, I'd be a good guest on your podcast.
Yo, that wasn't even months. That was years. For a year, I've been saying, T, you have a podcast. Why am I not on the podcast?
You'd be like, I'd be a great guest. I'd be like, okay,
every time you had a new podcast, you would probably get a text from me saying, Terrence, how have I not had a podcast?
Yeah. Why am I not on this thing yet? Huh? What are you doing? In your accent from down wherever the kids.
Are you kidding me? My accent? I don't know what you're getting at, but I've had a fun time with this podcast. So share this out with the world. It's probably get thousands and thousands of views.
Yeah.
But one thing before you go is, like, we talked about the 26 and 20 or 27, whatever colleges it was that I crossed off. Like, it goes back to, like, anything you do in life. Like, there's going to be people that tell you no along the way. There's going to be a lot of people that tell you no. But, like, if you're really passionate about something, and, there was a time that I wavered on it too. Should I really do coaching? Or should I just move on because of how hard it could be? But, like, I think if you have a passion, you just got to go chase it. That's just what I think. And I don't have an accent. So thank you for having me on, T.
Of course.
And I'll do this again anytime, man.
Of course. That was the Sean McGee interview. I want to thank you all for listening, and I will see you next week.